See, here on the Coyote Medicine Show, we're live and spontaneous, don't you know? So even the selections of music are not prearranged, you know. I got a big long list of several thousand songs I pick from. And I have these assistants that work with me all the time that help me do it. They help me make this smooth and mellow and thematic as all get out, and each little piece of tunage just flows in a natural flow, and that brings us to a place where we can rap about it a little bit more and expound upon the musical tunage that we've just been through and take it from there, and then another one, another long session. You know, it's been a long train running for a long time, but it's a beautiful process here. And you notice the acceleration? Jeez oh me, so I tell you what, I wake up, the sun comes up, I finish the show up, and the sun goes down, and I go back to bed for a while, man. I mean, it's just how fast it's going, you know, man. I don't even hardly have time to sleep anymore. It's just, you know, boom, boom, boom. But it seems to be so smooth and rhythmic, and compared to the life I've lived before, woo, pretty simple and pretty real, you know, and just kind of easy in a way. I do have to provide for myself and do a little house cleaning, and, you know, I don't mind cooking. God, I love doing that. But, you know, I just like, I got a flow. I got a really good life going on here. You know what I mean? And I am one content son of a gun. You know, I mean, I have my issues. I have to work on myself all the time. I can be quite an ornery little grunt, as you can sometimes hear me, especially at the end of the day when we get on a roll like that, eh? We start picking on the peoples, eh? Well, we're tired of it. But see, it's like, that's the very thing that motivates me to move beyond it, too. Because I'm worn out by the whole old thing. It's just like a moment of death, you know. When you come to death, for real, you are worn out. That's why it comes to you. You're done. You've had all you can take. See, well, it's kind of like that right now as we go trucking along this highway, flying like an eagle. See, this is when you transform. It's kind of like that moment that John Denver so aptly described there, where you're flowing down the highway, but you're flying higher than the eagle, man, because you are the eagle and the highway, way up high. See? And you can live that life right then simultaneous with the one you're driving through and be completely on top of your game. So you're not going to hurt anybody by soaring away. You see, there's a multiplicity of life can be lived there. I'll never forget the moment, well, just the other day I stepped outside my door and there's the sun coming up. You know, I just step out every now and then, catch a little breath of fresh air and that morning sunshine. I love it. Got to have a little of that, keep me recharged, you know. And they're coming out of the bright sun right before me was, I mean, it's like they materialized out of nowhere, these two really big eagles. Come flowing down over me, heading down into the valley to go hunting or hanging out for the day or whatever, but just right over my head, the two of them in formation. And just materialized right out of the sun, coming from somewhere up on the high ridge there, I reckon. Wow, from my perspective, there it was. But that reminded me again of the time I'm trucking down one of my favorite little highways out here in the West. And it's a real magical drive for me through some really high and rugged country, you know. And while I was traveling through that in the wintertime, so there's hardly any other traffic out there, this big, huge eagle, and this is back, about 2003, 2007, somewhere back in that time frame, I'm trucking. And this big old eagle just comes soaring down out of the sky. I'm trucking along about 65, 70. And just sails along in front of me for about half, 3/4 of a mile. Right in front of me, like 20 feet or so. And his wings are as wide as my cab is. That's about 8 feet. Huge, buddy. And just totally in synchronicity. It was, well, it was just part of a really magical day. Anytime I drive that particular highway, it's always like that, you know. It's out there in them raggedy lands between Utah and Wyoming, and oh, God. It's an existence that's very high, man. And I know most people go there don't feel the magic, but I sure do. I flow in it, and nature reminds me of it and joins with me. It's one of those places you can't truck through without stopping 3 or 4 times. You're just going to have to be ahead of schedule so you can afford that kind of time. because you're going to do that. Maybe even take a few snapshots, whatever, but you're going to stop. I don't care if it's 40 below out there and the wind's blowing, you're going to stop and absorb a little of that energy around you, man. You have to. It's a requirement when you run on such highways. But see, there's where the two, the eagle and the antelope, the driver, unite, and they become the same being. And they travel the same trail, though one does it in the sky and one does it on the earth. But they travel in synchronicity and harmony. They're in assistance to one another in the fact that they flow together in the same vein of life. You see, it's the river of life, but they're a little channel in it, and they're running it in unison. It's the same life being lived. And see, when you experience that driving down the highway like that, and that kind of magic, well then, you're living in the expansive way. You're starting to understand the flow of real nature, the energy of love, the motion of the energy of life, which, you know, so for such a long time we've all denied, to the point where we hardly felt it. You know, we felt ourselves to be something isolated in this life we were living. You know, we didn't even know what life was. We're just coming back to life now. We're starting to feel what that really is. It resonates inside of our soul and our being and our heart. It carries us through the day and the night. I mean, it just keeps us just right. That's why you can truck through such high, ruggedy country and be blessed by so many magic moments that, like, you could have some real scary moments out there, too. I remember one time, it was at night, same highway. I go plunging down this hill that I know there's a broad curve and then a kind of a long uphill straightaway coming. So I'm kind of letting her, you know, roll downhill a little bit, you know. So I'm going about 70, you know. At night with I got really good headlights, but all of a sudden, little ground blizzard, man. And I'm going 70. I could easily just squiggle right off the road. The wind 10 mile an hour, you know, even though I'm a heavy load, can do that. I mean, I've seen it happen, you know. And I just tense up at the wheel and I'm ready for just about anything. But then you hit that spot, that moment where you relax and you just, you know, more or less put it in the angel's hands. You don't think that. You just feel that. You live that. And they help you get through it. They keep that truck rock steady on the road. You ease out of it so you don't break loose at all. No jackknife, no nothing. You're just easy on everything you do. It's all in this easy, soft, slow motion kind of way. And you got maybe a half, 3/4 of a mile down to that little turn and you're saying, what am I going to do when I get there? And you know, but at the same time, you know you've got the prayer. You know you got the energies with you. So even though you're still kind of edgy, you're like, okay, let's just do this thing. And you ease her through it as gently as you can. It's like flying. It's like that eagle is right there ahead of you, breaking trail energetically and providing for the reality to accommodate you despite its energetic poles that might easily slide you off the road and cause a disaster. And in a heartbeat, you're out of that ground blizzard and you got dry road for the next 100 miles. Just one of those things. That's Wyoming in that high country. It's like that. It sneaks up on you. Driving at night can be a little hazardous just because of that. Even though you know the road, you run it a lot. You know the road, but at the same time, so you know where most of the ground blizzards are, but guess what? This one pops up in some place where it don't usually happen. See? I mean, on a downhill stretch, you wouldn't expect it. You know, not like that, not in that country. But anyway, there it was. But see, you go through it. This is what makes me this kind of stuff, this kind of living. You know, living multidimensionally like that, being able to experience the reality of the life, is what got me through the darker aspects of it and all the harshness I had to put up with here. And all the long and grueling hours out there on the highway, man. You get to where your ass is just glued to that seat and tired of it, man. I tell you, you live there, man. That truck becomes your reality. You're a flow going through life. And pretty rapidly, too, though. You look up in the sky and watch the jets go by and say, mother truckers. And you always dream about teleportation, pick up a load in L.A. and drop it off in New York an hour or so later. Wouldn't that just blow their jets? I always wanted to do that. But and I could dream of such things because these multidimensional moments would come to me quite often. And when your life is edged, which of course, you know, trucking's a hazardous occupation, and you got to be skilled to keep from killing people and yourself, let alone causing property damage and stuff. Because there's a lot of insanity out there on the highways. And the biggest hazard is your fellow drivers, man, because most of them are retarded, asleep at the wheel. Sorry to say. Most folks check their brains at the door when they get in the car. You know, and they just get hairballed. It brings out some of the worst behavior you could possibly imagine. Mostly it's just numb and unknowing behavior. But anyway, it's a hazard out there, you know. And so you're dealing with life and death moments in a routine basis. It may not happen every day, thank God, but sometimes happens 3 times in a day, you know. You just got to be ready for that 24/7. And you got to be like in this zone where even after 3 days of driving straight through and just catching a wink here and there over the wheel usually, because you can't afford to go down, you know, you'd die. And so if you got back in the sleeper and went to bed, you wouldn't wake up for 16 hours, the load would be lost, you know, and so would you. You'd be out of a job, man, see. So you like just keep yourself behind the wheel, you stay steady at it. And you got like 3 days down the road, you know. You know, if you're going coast to coast, you're going to get it done in that time. Usually, now that's discounting weather and conditions, which can slow you down, stop you in your tracks sometime, make you wait 3 days, stuff like that. It's a blessing sometimes because you're so God blessed and worn out, you need the rest. So sometimes you just lie there in the sleeper for 3 days. When the snow finally blows away and they start plowing you out, get going again, you know. You're all fresh, you know. Most of the time, though, you party. If you're snowed in, that's what you've been waiting for. Because that's more relief even than the rest would be, to tell you the truth. Because you get so wound up out there, you know. You're dealing with life and death situations often. It's always a little edgy. You just got to be awake. Even out there, you know, the wilds of Nevada or Montana or something. You never know when a big old elk or a moose is going to jump out in front of you, or something of a similar hazard's going to happen. And you just got to be ready, you know, and willing to sacrifice yourself in the saving of others, you know. And if you can't do that, you should never even be behind the wheel. That's part of the plan, man, you know. And you know, having that attitude that I'd rather go down than see anybody else have to, you know. Well, guess what? That's probably what protects you. That's what empowers the angels. Because you're kind of like Evel Knievel. You don't have fear. You know, it's not that you don't get tense and, you know, a little tight at times when things are happening. You damn right. But you stay thoughtful, you stay present. I mean, it's a means, really, all that dangerous situation was a way of living the multidimensional life, of allowing yourself to have a moment or two in it. So you could realize the real, you know, as you went on and you started to realize what really happens there, you start to see that you really are the creative energy through which this moment's come into being, and you're the magic through which everybody comes out of it, not only alive, but undamaged, and trucking down the highway like nothing happened. Sweating, maybe having to go pull over and clean up their pants, but we made it, you know. Jumping Jesus. Now see, that's how I feel about humanity, just about now. We're in some pretty tense moments. It's like we just went around a bend in the mountain. It's like what happened to me when I was a kid one time. We just went around a bend in the mountain. And we're on downhill with a heavy load. We got a truck that ain't got shit for brakes. You might be able to slow it down. It'd take about 3 miles to stop it going 70. With a downhill incline, you know. If it was flat land, well, less than that, maybe a mile. In other words, all you can do with her is pray and drive. And be ready to drive through anything. And I go around the corner there. It's a tight one. So I slowed down a little bit for it. So I must have been going about 60. And there I'm facing 3 semis driving at me head on. About a third of a mile ahead of me. Now, I can't stop this thing. This is a 2-lane highway with narrow shoulders, hardly any at all. And it's in some really wild and rugged country. There's big old boulders and there's arroyos. I mean, you know, you're in a canyon environment in the lower ends of the canyon, but it's still ruggedy as all get out, you know. And wow. you're facing almost a certain and sudden fate. One way or the other, you're going to go down. You're probably going to have to go off the road to the right, into the mountain, and pray that you hit it in just the right place. That's about the option coming to you. Of course, things have slowed down enough in the time frame that you got a little time to think about it. But these guys aren't backing out of it. I mean, they can't. They're going too fast. They're probably coming at you about 60. So this whole thing happens in about 3 seconds. But it feels like 30 years as you're going through it, you see. And somehow, out of a certain and sudden death, the boys coming at you, smart asses that they are. Now, these are some wild-ass, hairy old truck drivers. You know, they know better with some freaking game they were playing, not thinking they were going to meet downhill traffic that time of day or something. You understand? It was some joke they were playing, trying to race each other, you know. Well, at the last split second, something happens, and the boy on the right manages to pull off, almost clear off the road, but to keep it upright. And that gave me some room, and the two boys on the left did the same thing. And somehow it must have been an inch clearance. And then I was free and rolling down the canyon, and everything was just all right. I could take my time, and I slowed down about 10, 15 miles an hour and just cruised. I didn't get in any big hurry after that. And I blessed my life. And the love I felt in it. I really did. I was pretty screwed up at 16. I really didn't know a lot in that time frame, but God. And I carried the weight of the world on my shoulders, too. It was heavy, dark times in some ways, but somehow I managed to be the Coyote and dance through it. I always had fun with it. And just like that moment, I always came out of it smelling like a rose, sweating like a hog heading to the slaughterhouse, but smelling like a rose, man. You see where that appreciation comes from, is moments like that. And you really don't realize that it's a multi-dimensional experience when you're going through it. You're focused on what's happening and getting through it, you know. You have incredible focus in times like that. It's like all of that silliness, that dumb-brainedness goes out the window, and the divine intelligence is in control. The heart assumes command. You step out of the way as a personality and become a soul in survival training. You see, and it's a whole different paradigm you're living in it, though sitting there as a human being, you don't really realize that. You just see great distortions in reality and the time perspectives. And in milliseconds, you can think 1,000 thoughts rationally and come up with a conclusion and move in that direction and save everybody's bacon, your own included. Most of the time, it's kind of like what I just described to you. It's a moment of fortune. It just pops up out of nowhere. I can remember a similar time when I'm passing another semi out there on Interstate 15 in the deserts of southern Utah or Nevada. Long straightaway anyway, about 10, 15 miles. You can see forever down that straightaway. So I'm trucking along there at night, and I'm passing a fellow trucker because I can see forever and there ain't no traffic. And I'm going about 70, 75, passing this brother. He's going about 60. Anyway, long story short, bam! A set of headlights pops up out of a little dip in the highway that I didn't see. And there they are about 100, 150 feet ahead of me, coming at me about the same speed I'm coming at them, 70, 75 miles an hour. Well, again, it's a moment where I'm going to have to go off the road to miss them, because I ain't getting in no head-on. And God, I got my old lady of the time with me. I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to hurt anybody. You know what I mean? And again, you get that multiple perspective. There's this distorted moment. Somehow you manage to brake. The other guy slides over a bit. You clear. At the last second, you clear. Everybody's okay. We're alive. The highway's still rolling on ahead of us. Boy, believe you me, I was a whole lot more careful after that about passing on long straightaways where I knew there was no oncoming traffic. I'd sweat every time I had to pass somebody. You know, me being a bit of a hot rod trucker, I had to pass them too. I wasn't any way I was going to log along with them at 60, 65 when I could run 70, 80 miles an hour and get the job done a little more quickly. But I like the hare and the tortoise, man. I'd still only run 1,000 miles a day no matter how hard I pushed it. That was just about the maximum. A lot of times 800 about all you could get done. You know, just depending on how conditions were and how traffic was and a whole lot of other factors, you know. But you learn to fly like the eagle. See, that's what gets you through, and that's what that eagle was telling me up there in Wyoming when it comes down and flies right in front of me for half, 3/4 of a mile. Going just as fast as I was, but not moving a feather. Just soaring. 65, 70 miles an hour. With an 8-foot wingspan. I mean, shit. I wanted to bust out the hang glider. Felt like I already had. You know? Wow, what a moment. But see, we're always in training. We're bringing ourselves back. See, this is what a lot of my experiences like that have been about. This is why I live such a dangerous freaking life. And baby, believe me, it's been hazardous. I won't go on to describe too many because the moments just get unbelievable. But they were one after another. Since I was a kid, it's been like that. Well, it doesn't happen that way so much now, thank goodness. Things have really calmed down in my life. I'm far more centered, but boy, for a long time, living life right on the edge. You know, that's why I had white hair in my 30s. I had gray hair in my temples at 18. Jeez. But no wonder, man. Shit. A little salt and pepper in my whiskers, too. I couldn't believe it, man. Shit, I looked like an old man at 18. Hell, I was 16. I could pass for 25, 30. You know, at 16 years old, I could go in a liquor store and buy liquor where they didn't know me, didn't know my age, and I'd get away with it. They wouldn't even ask me for ID, man. It's pretty cool, huh? But, I mean, that's the only plus side I could find on it. The other rest of it was it wore you down pretty fast. But, God, now 3 million miles later, after those humble beginnings, driving coal trucks in the 60s, man, shit. Craziness. But anyway, after 3 million miles, man, and I see nothing but magic and pure charm in all of it. I see the flight of the eagle in it. And that's why I'm sitting here right now saying if this was my last breath, it's a beautiful one. And thank you very much for all of you for being here and being a part of it. See, now I'm not even pretending that's something that's going to happen. Though we are facing something similar to that right now. That's why there's been that kind of fear of death hanging around and lingering around. And you've seen the energies of this earth try to amp up that fear. Because it's the end of death lingering near. In other words, we're about to transition the realities and live in that presence I'm talking about all the time instead of just once in a while when our life is in danger. It's that big a shift. It's a whole nother paradigm. It's where the universe relaxes and becomes itself again. And there's peace everywhere because there's perfect harmony in it. And everything just flows naturally, and there is no hazardous situation ever again. Not of any sort. Let alone the conflicts of nations and tribes and wars and planetary realities and shit like that. We lived in an incredible fiction, and the magic that we've been able to experience in it is what proves it to us. The incredible malleability of it. I know others have gone down. But babies, that's life in the war zone. And this life has been a war zone, and the war's been on us. Us against us. Some angry rage that just was off the page, uncontrollably so. But see, it's that same magic moment, man. Just when you think it's the worst, whammo. Something really magic happens in the 3D, and shoo, you get on through alive and kicking. You didn't even break a clearance light. Nothing happened. The angels were so there with you, baby. They got us through. Well, your skill too, man. You got to give yourself credit, man. You have to be willing in order to do that. A lot of people don't. They panic, you know, and they don't do anything, even though they have an incredible opportunity to respond. They just aren't there. They aren't present in that moment. You see, it's a different response. Their time's up. more than likely. I mean, I'm not the judge of that, but that's what it looks like to me. Having lived and seen so many gone down in conditions where I just get on through, you know. I mean, it's sad in a lot of ways, because you sure do leave a lot of hardy troopers behind you. You really do. I've known some real soul saints out there that I knew weren't going to live long to tell about it, and sure as hell they didn't. I've known others to walk away from the dumbest accidents, which sure as hell should have killed them and everybody else for miles around, and didn't. You know, I mean, I've seen some incredible miracles. In fact, there for a while they were just daily. I mean, it was all the time, you know. It had to be, because things were just that crazy. But that's what gets you through, baby, is the miracle. The miracle of your own frickin' life, which reflects back to you its grander nature in these miraculous moments that we experience. Why do you think you would challenge life so greatly as I have, except to prove to yourself the miraculous, the truth? We're in charge here. Our heart loves us. It wants to preserve this life. It's not here to wear it out and send it. It's on its way. Yeah, on its way, all right. Down life's highway. Gathered together with all the energies of life, all of our friends and relatives in this reality, those in the visible and not so visible presence. You want disclosure, you got it. And it ain't going to be the government, though. It's about time they started talking about all the bullshit they've been up to. What a bunch of harebrains. But see, we let them get away with it. There's no blame. It's a role we play. Just when we think it's the worst moment and they're trying to foment this great war and end it all for everybody, or get you to fight with a planetary reality that doesn't exist. Something like that. You know, just when it's all looking so dark and bleak, the economy, oh God. Well, Jesus, you know, we had our faith in the wrong darn things all along. And it's about time for those things to dissolve away, so they're naturally crumbling. But what's coming to replace it is the magic, the charm, the real life that we're living in. That's why this shit's going away. It isn't necessary anymore. We don't have to maintain a fixture in that reality. We bless the experience of it and get on our way, more or less. We're driving life's highway. We got that eagle flying in front of us and all the divine angels that go with him, you see? We're safe. We're going to be reasonable about it. We're not going to challenge and we're not going to push our luck. Ever. We learned not to do that after our younger days and a few experiences like what I just described. It can be quite transformative. And then some. But nothing can make you appreciate your life more than living to tell about it, baby. And blessing the others with the same blessing. God. I remember the last time that happened to me. It was a near-miss head-on thing, just like what I described. Last second, everybody got out of the way. It was one of those unavoidables, you know. That last second, everybody got out of the way. We did it. And humanity's done the same thing. We've lived to tell about it. And we just fucking rock, babies. That's why you're getting holiday music today, here on the Coyote Medicine Show, given in that coyote way. Where else but the ever-loving, sweethearted, fully embracing the Hazy Radio Network. Worldwide at hazyradio.com, we got it on. Especially when Grandpa's telling stories like that. You get him on Truckin' Tales, you get him lost and found. Ain't you glad you've been hanging around? Hey, the doobies have too, baby. And they love you as much as I do. Maybe a little more, man, because we gave them lots of money. You know, I was just sitting here adding it up in my mind, you know, the width of that highway that us 4 trucks somehow managed to squeeze through, you know. We had about 25 foot of highway, maybe 26 with the, right out to the maximum side of the shoulders, and we got 28 foot of truck through there without a scratch. And nobody went over either. Now you tell me how we did that? Well, I'll tell you how, by living multidimensionally and altering our reality. Our common wish between those 4 drivers was that we would all make it through. It was a scary moment, too, because nobody else knew what to do, man. Thank goodness we got through, eh? And started to learn about the miraculous. We look at those moments as, oh my God, why does it happen? You know, I look at them now and say, well, bless that moment. Holy cow. And all the rest that go with it. Oh my goodness. And how, man. So says Grandpa here, giving you a big old hug. That's the drug that pleases all babies. Hug is the drug of the day, man. On a free day Friday here in that Coyote way, baby. Ooh, yeah. It's warm love, ain't it? Yes, indeed. Yeah. Getting it clear here on the Hazy Radio Network, babies. Loving you for it, too, babies. Yes, indeed. Inside. It's all in how you take this ride. It's all in how you feel and address it. And how you live and experience it. Both in the past, the present, and in this moment create the past and the future. At last. See, you kind of understand it now. You kind of got the flow. Because we demonstrated it to you. Now you know what it feels like. Because everybody's had their moment when their heart's been right there in their throat. And things work out, and away you float, just dancing down the edges of life, flirting with death and saying, hey, don't mess with me, baby. I'm living, don't you see? But you helped me feel it, so thank you very much for all them close calls and for pulling me up by you-know-what's each and every now and then. Oh, my goodness. Did you ever shake my bacon and get me moving? I tell you what, we got reason to celebrate on this Free Day Friday. This really high day, babies. Yes, indeed, a free-for-all Friday. And boy, it has been, hasn't it? How about them trucker tales, baby? You love it when Grandpa rolls into that mode, don't you? Got lots of tales, man. Magic and mystery on the highway of life. Oh, yeah. And each one of them leading to this moment of now and the and how that we're beginning to experience here now. Because we know what it is to live beyond the paradigm, the fixed reality. We don't have to stay stuck here anymore. We're like Billy Pilgrim and Valerie Perrine. Only we're not imprisoned on Trafalgar. We're free to go wherever we want to be and flow into it all quite naturally. It's our gift to humanity. It's a gift of heart. Paradise is getting through life by the use of magic. Miracles in every moment, because this moment is a miracle. The fact that you're living and breathing right now and beginning to experience life again, finally, is a living presence of a miracle if ever there was one. Look how far away from it you've been pulled, myself included, all of us. Look how far we've gone with it, too. And look where it's brought us to. Just when we thought it was the bitter end, it became the divine beginning. We didn't get in that head-on, baby. Nobody got injured. Nobody got hurt. Everybody's heart was pumping a little fast. But we made it through with the gift of the angels and the distortions of the reality, because we lived a little bit beyond it and let ourselves be there long enough to fix it up just right. And now we know how to fix it up just right. We're doing it, babies. We live beyond this paradigm. We experience in a little different way. And we become creative on this day. Because we know how it's done. We know how it is to be living and alive and loving the sun. Being the stars and the moon too. Being the life that we live. Ho, 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 and a Merry Christmas on this Coyote Medicine Show, wouldn't you say? We're living it high today. So let's dream this thing into being, man. We need a little gathering place. Let's just make it happen. Everybody we're already doing it, so we're just already united. You know, we need a gathering place, Crestonia, Colorado. Universe shall provide. so we can take the magic carpet ride each and every day. I need to move this radio show out of my home anyway and get it down there amongst the peoples, man, where you guys can come in and have coffee with me in the morning. Give it a little more laid back and casual atmosphere yet, hey? Paradise, babies. We're working ourselves right into it. We're creating it a step at a time just by being in it, living it. And then the material reality can't help but complement it. You see what I mean? It has to facilitate it. Because that's our reality. We can't live the lie any longer. The truth has come. It lives inside each and every one. That's why you're seeing so damn many revelations in this reality about what's been going on skullduggerously in the background. How far away people have gotten from their heart. How far we've stretched it. And how close we came to complete disaster. Well, it ain't happening this time, is it? It's gone the other way. But we know it both ways, don't we? And we know the fulfillment of it too. Right here in this moment, this day. We've got it together. It's ours. Because we've created it that way. We live to tell about it, in other words. So now we inherit our natural reward. Just the same as if the rain falls in the sky and the sun rises. It's natural. It's what happens for us when we're real. When we allow ourselves to truthfully and honestly feel inside and then confess it on the outside by living it. That's your whole new revolution. That's the whole heart of humanity, uniting in this moment in time. Inside of presences such as you and I. Because we have the ability to see in that way. We're a little closer than most so that others can get closer, you see. We're trailbreakers, divine door openers, gatekeepers, who have the keys to the everlasting love in their heart. And by turning these keys now, we allow that heart to be in all of this living mystery we call history, and this moment of now and how. See, so we've given ourselves a paradise. We've given ourselves a place to be. Just quite a bit beyond this reality yet. We'll keep our feet in it. We'll keep them dirty, keep them muddy. We'll keep on flowing until everybody's glowing. Because we're all about coming back to life and putting an end to death. And when you don't have to fear death, there's nothing to fear. Alien invaders, my ass. Don't believe it. But feel your heart. I mean, don't deny it just because you're angry and you think they're stupid for throwing that stuff at you. Well, maybe so. Maybe so. But so what? It's all in how you feel about it, you know. And if you feel it's real, well then you give it a reality. But if you invalidate that reality, if you see past the holographic nature of it, well, baby, then the only thing that can be there is what's really truthfully there. And it might just be a few fluffy clouds in the air that somebody's trying to project a picture on to scare you. And making these scary movies to prime you for it too, man. Here comes the alien. See, there's interest in this world would have you believe that war is an everlasting thing, a way of life in the universe. That this creation lives beyond this earthly reality. And that's patent and false untruthfulness. Though some people will sit there and bear witness to it. They have lived it. But that's another one of those little paradigms inside of a paradigm inside of a paradigm. You see, this is Free Day Friday. We're free. You got to remember how we created this thing, how we allowed it to come into being. We did a little twist and turn. The grandfathers come and told us, the grandmothers as well, told us yesterday, I think it was, day before, that it's already established in this, more or less, let's call it a false reality, so that it could be corrupt, but not bring an end to everything. It could break itself down to the most humble of pieces. It could stretch it right to the maximum. Because it wouldn't matter, because it was in a reality that had little, if any, effect upon creation. Yet in that unreality, could we realize the totality of creation? We chose to do it this way, as humanity, as a heart that loves and cares for itself and its creation mightily, because it lives in all of it. That's the Christmas gift of this reality. That's the truth of your own knowing, the truth of your own story, you know. So in that same flow and in that same vernacular, let's go. Let's create a nice little gathering place for ourselves, a broadcast center for the union of the Coyote Medicine Show with the universe, from a essential little place every bit as special and spectacular as this place I'm in right now. Only you get to come there and have your physical presence as a part of the show if you want to be, but at least hang out in the energy field and enjoy it, you know. We'll have a great time, guys. It's time we started gathering. It's time we started putting things together in the reality of materiality so that others can see there is a reality beyond this one. And that you can step through a door here and be transported to a completely different reality. The one little step can turn your whole life around. One sip on a magical mug that holds the drug we call coffee, man. Do you realize how addicted we all are? We have our drugs, whether they come from a medicinal facility, some crazy dude on the street, or one of our best friends, you know, whatever. You know, we have our habits, you know. And it's mostly drug-induced, no matter how you view it. Even our own food can drug us down, now can it, you know? See, we're drug addicts, man, because we like to feel. We like the way drugs make us feel or not feel. Sometimes we're too sensitive. We need a little numbing out. And so that kind of drug comes our way. Oh, got a painkiller, oh yeah. Well, the pain still remains and it still affects you. You just go dead to it. And that just reminds you of how dead you are inside already. So what? So you'll finally come to that point where you really need to come back to life. And then you'll give up on death and you won't live in sleepy-headedness anymore, because none of us want to be there. None of us want this stupid world to fall apart and hurt everybody in the process. None of us want to see that happen. None of us. Nobody here is ravenous for destruction. Nobody. Not in this universe and not in this planet. I know there sure seems to be a lot of evidence otherwise, doesn't there? But what do you feel in your heart? That's what's real. It's all in how you perceive it. See why they try so hard to be the bad guys and get you to believe? Because that kind of creates it. By your allowance, it comes into being. But you see, if you can remember these magic moments in your life where you were and are the miracle worker, well, then you are a miracle worker already. And there's nothing in our way in this reality. And there's no need for any bitterness or pain to be exacerbated any longer, in any way. We're through with warfare because we love. And we are love. We know both sides now. We've been there, done that. All of us. I'll never forget my day of retirement from truck driving. It was a stressful moment for me because I was so addicted to driving those 18-wheelers up and down the highway that I'd sold myself many times over just to keep on doing it. Gave up on a family life, all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Well, babies, for me, it was always a spiritual experience. Every moment that I lived and breathed, driving a truck or traveling by any other means, traveling seemed to be my way. Didn't seem like I was ever going to stay any place, though I certainly did feel at home a place or two in my life. But that doesn't mean I get to stay there. I'm always the kind that's moving on. 4 strong winds a-blowing, 7 seas to be crossed. And I guess I'll be going come what may. That's been the story of my life. I've managed some solidity, some solidarity, and despite all of that, what you'd call wanderlust is not wanderlust. There was like a thing in me, a feeling, as a child, that knew it was going to walk everywhere across this earth and see it all and be it all and love it all and experience it all. It knew it. It knew there was a world beyond those magic mountains it lived beside. It could feel it out there calling him. And baby, there I was, 65 years later, sitting in this tiny little hippie bus, trying not to freeze to death. You know, it's October already. It wasn't that cold, but it's getting cold at night, man. So I was having to burn fires already. And, you know, my circumstances were not what you would consider ideal, but I was living with it, making the best of it. And I realized, you know, there'd just been some things that had happened in the last few weeks before that, trucking, that had indicated to me it was time to really let it go. And then, on top of all of that, Spirit, which I live in and which I live for, had been calling me strongly to hunker down. Now, this was back in about October of 2012. And then I just came to this point, you know, where I knew at the end of this one run that I was done. You know, I had more than 3 million miles in. I was almost 66. I was a month or 2 months away from being 66. So I was well within the age of retirement. I already had Social Security coming in. I'd been giving it all away to somebody else because I'm such a generous soul, but maybe I could retrieve a little of that and live on it. Maybe I could have a life without having to truck. But I was so addicted. I so loved the journey and all the magic I'd experienced in it that you got to understand this was probably more difficult than giving up my lover of 30 years, etc. This was a really difficult thing for me, yet the knowing side wins. I mean, my stubborn side drugged it out through the weekend, you know, and didn't tell the boss when he came in that I was done. Because I couldn't bring myself to do that. I didn't want, it was my last journey in trucking, I knew that. And I just didn't, part of me just wasn't willing to give it up. But when the call came Tuesday morning, before I could pick up the phone and call him, he got busy early. And there was a run for me to take. I had to tell him, boss, I'm sorry, but I can't explain it. I can't turn another wheel. I'm done. I've hung it up after 3 million miles. If I go out, nothing's good's going to happen. You know, I've lost the magic. I can't. It won't be with me because I need. You know, I couldn't tell him this, but I'm needed somewhere else. And so, in that moment, my life completely shifted, and I let go of a burden and started accepting the blessed side of it. I was no longer cursed with having to journey every which way in order to stay alive. That kind of aspect of my experience had come to a completion of sorts. There was a moment of time now to reveal and unwind the divine from inside of myself, which had been hidden away, even though I'd let a lot of it out already and showed myself and a lot of others a whole lot of magic in this world. I was learning how to be it, too. I was still on the journey, the process. This was 2012. Babies, it was time to get it on. Everybody knew December 21 was over with. Oh, yeah, right. Well, I never really expected that, but I knew there were changes in the offing. And I knew my journey was to sit there and process as much as I possibly could to drive myself to new levels, to allow myself to experience a little broader aspects. When I'm working, I'm totally and completely occupied in the work. Trucking is a 24/7 commitment. You get a little time here and there, but it's not the same as having 24/7 at your disposal. More or less, you know, that's the world I could step into. It'd be tricky, but there I was doing it, and somehow it all worked out. Just like those miraculous moments when, you know, at the last second, everything just, and there we are, everything worked out. It's just like that. So down to the wire, I drove it, but the boss managed to get another driver within just a few minutes, cool. So my ass was covered. And I really didn't injure the business any, and by my impetuousness. Now, see, I could have easily given them 2 weeks' notice, but that's not my style of quitting. You know, either I'm in or I'm out. That's just been the way I've been all my life. You know, I don't halfway anything. And once in a while I have managed to give a 2-week notice, but I regretted it every time I did. It's best just to be done with it. If they know you're leaving, things don't go well. You know, I mean, the energy shifts again you, you know. It's exactly what I would have been facing if I'd have taken that journey that day. And boy, I was tempted, but not really. I just didn't want to give it up, but my heart knew I had already. That when I'd parked that truck there that Saturday and at the end of that run, I was over with. I was done with. And I'd never drive another. Except maybe if I ever did get a Coyote medicine show or something like that going that needed to be on the road trucking-wise, then I might do a little hobby driving that way. Just as a reminder that I still could. I mean, it's something that I quit for 12, 13 years and stepped back into like I'd never let it go. You see, and still got 3 million miles in. Figure that one out. I've been trucking since I was a kid. That's how. But I did it off and on, too. I would do trucking for a few years, and then I'd go do something else. I had a few businesses in my time. I was an executive when I was a younger guy. I mean, I've been there, done that. I've done a lot. I've been salt and pepper all of my life, the seasoning. Maybe a little sweet basil thrown in, and just a slight aggravation of stinging nettle. Some of those herbs and spices aren't just too nice, are they? No, that one brings up welts on your hands and arms if you get it in the wrong places. Any place where the skin's a little tender, that stinging nettle's got you. And you get big blisters out of it. It's not fun stuff. But when you're in a survival mode, I got to tell you a little secret. If you can pick the leaves by the palm of your hand, which is usually toughened up. Mine are so wussy now, I can't believe it. First time in my life, I never had calluses on the hand, you know. But anyway, wow. If you pick that stinging nettle with the full palm of your hand, and be careful not to touch it with any other part, and then you place it directly into the pot you're going to cook it in, that's a good little survival medicine when you're like, you know, you're out there and you got nothing else to eat. There's something to eat, man. And it's like, it has a kind of a spinachy-like taste. But you got to be sure you boil it down good, because the nettle's got to be fried. Because if they ain't fried, they're going to blossom inside your mouth and your tummy, and that's going to hurt like hell. But, you know, if you're careful about stuff like that, even cactus, you know, the prickly pear cactus, it's a difficult chore now. I don't recommend anybody try it. But when you're desperate, if you ever are out there in the desert and you need a little liquid refreshment and some pulp to line your tummy with a little nutrition in it, well, there you go, prickly pear cactus. If you can cut it open and get the pulp from the inside without, now you got to understand the stingers go into the pulp too, so there's a distance you have to give it. But if you gently scoop it out with whatever little stick or appliance you can find, it's going to provide sustenance and keep you alive. Till you can see past the dream of need, you know, and understand you're not hungry, you're not thirsty, but you know, you got to be in a higher state. Oh, maybe you already are. How about that? Look at that creative love flowing through you. I don't think you'll ever have to do any of those survival things. You'll never have to eat roots and berries and stuff like that. I think you'll never be in a desperate place like that. I think those survival dreams are over with. I don't think there ever will be the grand apocalypse. I think that's come and gone. I think humanity's already faced its most horrible faces and knows itself well. And I think it's ready to give in to the desire of the mother love inside of all life. That we be doing ourselves peacefully now. That we give up these old expressions. We've lived in an abject reality anyway that really didn't amount to a hill of shit. For all of the glory you've been able to grab in it, huh? See, that's what people are most afraid of. They're going to have to let go of all that glory. What have you been able to grab here, man? Well, geez, oh, if you could see and feel what's waiting for you here in your heart, dear, you wouldn't even, that wouldn't even concern you a little bit. That's nothing. This is real. This is a divine paradise, opening and an awakening inside of every human being that lives. One way or another, one time or another, but it's expansive and it's growing. This is why all hearts are turning in a more caring direction, and why the secrets that have been hidden for so long are bound to be told. And again, don't look to your government for that source of disclosure. Hell, they can't tell on themselves. Yet they can an element at a time, and they're doing it. You know, and you got to understand, too, that they've been dealing with a tricky paradigm. Those people that have been involved in those powerhouses and all the secret programs that go with it, that they have been fooled in a way too. So understand, you got to say, and plus you got a whole bunch of disinfo agents active as well. So you just got to understand and know the truth as you see it. Don't believe anything. If it doesn't resonate with you, it ain't right. If it resonates, well, it blends right in. And it just adds to your level of understanding and experience. You see, you can see it higher already than anybody from top to bottom in the secret space programs. You already have a clearer view than they do. They're dealing with a more or less darkened reality, where things are stretched out and extended and need to be traveled between. And that's not truth. That has a lot to do with time, yeah, but time's non-existent. That's the paradigm we stepped into. That makes this also holographic, see, because time does not exist. Well, then how do we experience it all this time? Why are you on from 5 a.m. to noon, etc.? It's just where we're living right now, see? The reality is in that place just beyond this one that you begin to experience in those trying moments of your life. Maybe it wasn't a life-threatening thing in the ways of an auto accident or a plane crash or something. Maybe it was the threat of death through betrayal in this life. You know, sometimes you can feel that hurt by the absence of another's presence or some of the harsh things they play against you or seem to. There's always two sides to every story, and, you know, maybe everybody's just been screwed up and we got to let it go. But your heart can be that broken that you think you're going to die. And you start going through your death throes because of it. And some people literally do die because of it. Not necessarily through a visual suicide, but through a psychic suicide. They just let go and say, screw that. You know? But see, that's how unworthy we can make ourselves feel. But guess what? The moment you step beyond this paradigm, you're back in the full presence of love again. And your own consciousness is available to you, all of it. And you start to remember, foggily so at first usually. Some people are quick. Most people come back into it a little bit at a time, but you start to realize the presence of the vast nature of your experience here. How it covers all levels of time and is active all the time, so therefore it kind of nullifies time, you see. There's an experiential realm, that's time. That's what it's for, is experience, dragging it out so we can feel it, learn what feeling is, stretch ourselves from it so that we'll crave it, etc. You know, a billion different little mechanical aspects going on here that are all about the ripening and the seasoning and the growing of the eternal heart. Of it manifesting within its own presence a different brand of expansive growth, a feeling, resonating thing that really is the divine harmony of life being sung once again in everything that lives, each in their own individual aspect of it. This is how we neutralize the toxicity and the reality around us, by the way. See all things in the same vibrational harmony, all things that are complementary and work perfectly together. And there's no harm to anything here whatsoever. That's how we neutralize toxicity here. Inside of ourselves and inside of the presence of this earth around us and the spatial reality as we see it beyond her. And as we experience this presence gathering together in this tiny little place before these grand mountains, the whole universal thing starts to cave in on us. We're starting to get lighter and brighter, and so's the world around us. That humble little log cabin or whatever it was we've been gathering in does become that imperial chalice of love that I would call a crystalline tetrahedron, rising up in the sky maybe 300 feet. Huge in its capacity to hold party in person. Or those that just want to come and sit by the fire and chew the fat and remember what life was, because boy, it sure ain't like that no more, is it? We've just risen up in the heart. We've brought forward in this creation what we knew we were always capable of, but didn't quite give ourselves the energy or the credit to be able to actually do. It was a nice dream, you know. Here it is, baby. fulfilling itself. Don't be afraid. Tell the fear it's okay. See, it's a little child inside. It's afraid of its real truth. Because it's been taught to fear it by others, see? Not by itself, by others. The little child inside knows the ride. It knows it's okay, but it's just afraid. It just needs a little reassurance, a little comfort. You know, and then it'll end its resistance completely. So baby, be about that all day and all night today. Be embracing that child inside. So that it'll be willing to take the wild ride. Not sit there and suck its thumb for the rest of forever. Enough is enough. Let's get it on. Okay, baby. Rockin' good to ride with you this morning. A lot more to go here on the Coyote Medicine Show, don't you know? Here on the Hazy Radio Network. Yes, it is, too. A real net rock. We're rockin'est network you ever found. We've been to both sides of that little town. Ooh, and we kind of like it, too.